All right, we're going to turn the meeting over to you guys. Thank you for coming.
Thank you guys for being here. I don't see any rock shit to be thrown at me, so that's a good thing.
We got them hidden.
We're here to learn.
We got pocket knives.
Hey guys, I'm here to address any questions you've got on the LP side. Chief Fulham's here, anything to do with the construction side, all the way from building permits to the way authority having jurisdiction works right now. The authority having jurisdiction, we don't grant that. So as far as Hochatown, if you choose to take your own authority, that's something that we don't grant. I'll let Chief go into that here in a minute. Some of the questions you guys got, I know the biggest deal is the grills.
Yeah, let's talk about the grills.
So as far as the grills go, it's kind of so let's start with single family dwelling versus what a commercial Airbnb or VRBO is, okay?
Yeah.
So if you own your own home, and this is the biggest thing that we've got, if you own your home and you live in that home yourself, your immediate family, you don't have to be licensed, okay? But once you, say you own a home and you rent it out, that's now a commercial complex. You're now renting it out to another family. This is where you get into your electricians, your plumbers, your LP gas technicians, all that's gonna be permitted and licensed, either through CIB or through our agency. Now with the plumbing, the gas plumbing permit does not allow a person to be an LP gas plumber. It's governed completely different than CIB. It's actually governed under the LP Gas Administration in Title 52, Section 420, and Oklahoma State statutes under oil and gas, okay? So if you're a plumber and you got a plumbing permit, you still need our permit to be covered by your insurance, okay? Any questions on that? Here's your fire marshal for area, Trenton Griffin. He's Special Agent Griffin. I'm sure he's got plenty of business cards to get you guys. So when you guys get into these actual dwellings that you guys are renting out, what changed it on our side is everybody's aware of the little flash fire we had back, I want to say August, early September, that actually injured a person. Insurance comes in, I deal with the attorneys on that side as well. They pull up our statutes and rules and realize, hey, the lodging company is not permanent with the LP Gas Administration. So that's where we tried to come in and kind of help you guys out and get you guys permitted and licensed to do this. But there's a problem. I went back through the statutes and rules before this meeting. I told Kalita Payton, which is my officer for this area that's assigned to this and several other counties, I told them not to be testing any more lodging people unless they've got a CIB permit in plumbing or mechanical. Our statutes are very clear. You either got to work for a Class 1 dealer like Scott Christian that owns cyclopropane, work for them for 2 weeks for you to get that license, that permit. You got to be trained, okay? Or if you've got a CIB permit, as far as a mechanical permit goes, you can actually go in there and actually challenge the test and take it. Okay.
What's the CIB permit?
Construction Industry Board. It's a license. That's where you get your electrical license, mechanical license, journeyman license, apprentice license, general contractor's license, all that stuff. So I've got a lot of feedback with the county commissioners. Do I have any in here with McCurtain County?
Commissioner? No.
No commissioners. I wish they would have made it. So when the county commissioner tells you there's no building codes, and the county commissioner tells you there's no codes in general because you guys are not a city, that is not true. Each building, even this building right here, has got to meet an occupancy type through the state fire marshal's office. They got a plan review system that goes in. It goes through a triage. They look at it, make sure they got all the information, and then it goes through that. Once it passes, they permit it for the construction, then construction can begin. And if Trent wants to describe what he does on his end, or if Chief Fulham wants to do that, this is the process.
Well, I'll tell you a little bit about our agency before we go too far. The state of Oklahoma adopts a minimum code through the Oklahoma Uniform Building Code Commission. So that commission recommends a code to the state legislators. They adopt it. And that code applies statewide as the minimum code. And there's another piece of legislation that establishes the state fire marshal's office. And they charge us with enforcing that code. We specifically do not enforce the code for 1 and 2 family dwellings, but all business properties we do enforce the code. So down here you have this Airbnb cabin thing. We look at those as single-family dwellings.
Really?
That's really not what they are. They're really built for the purpose of renting out to other people. But at this time, we're not looking at them that way. So Trent and I are not here to take addresses and look for problems today. We're pretty much a complaint-driven agency. We only have 12 agents scattered across the state. And Trenton's from Tushka, just south of Atoka. So he's a long ways from here. So you don't see a lot of us unless you have a fire that you want us to investigate. Or if someone calls and says, I think this building is unsafe and it's unpermitted, then we'll come look at it. And then we'll get you down the process of bringing that building up to standards. So this building here, I said I didn't go pull anything up on the computer, but I'd be willing to bet there was no building permit issued for this building we're in right now. That's largely because people think that if you live in the county, those codes don't apply to you, but they do. So you've got a lot of commercial businesses that are already out there that someday will face a problem because they didn't get a building permit. And the fire chief or someone's gonna complain. And we're gonna have to address that situation. So like I said, Trent and I are not gonna go picking out addresses today to see who has the building permit and who doesn't. But moving forward, Mayor Diane, it'd be in your best interest if you guys started telling these people when they come to town to build something that they need a building permit to do that. Are y'all following me so far? Is this making sense?
Got a question for you.
Okay.
So you're in an unincorporated area, and I apologize, I'm construction in Texas, but I do have a place in here. When you're unincorporated, yes, you have to comply with the IRC, IPC, whichever code has been mandated for the area. But how are you supposed to acquire a permit of any kind if there's no municipality?
You apply to the state fire marshal's office.
Okay.
So go to our website, all the forms are there. There's lots of checklists and guidance. If you have any idea what you're doing, it's not complicated.
Yeah.
There's even a link to tell you if you need to have an architect for the project. There's a state law that says an occupancy of over 50 has to have a licensed architect submit the plans. So we don't actually look at plumbing, electrical, and mechanical. We actually get a sealed letter from a licensed electrician that says this building was designed to meet the electrical code, and then another letter at the end that says this building was constructed to meet the electrical code. The part of the plan we review is the fire safety portion. So we're looking at, are your partition walls correct? If you're required to have a rated corridor, we're looking to make sure those are correct. We're looking for sprinkler systems if required, alarm systems. One of the things in the state minimum code is you have to have a fire hydrant within 400 feet or 600, depending on if you have a sprinkler system. Well, that's not possible. So we have a variance. We allow you to have a monitored alarm system in lieu of that fire hydrant if it's not possible to put one in. So we're not hard to work with unless you turn in bad stuff. So if you turn in a good set of plans, it should be about a 4-week turnaround to actually get your building permit. So there is an option. We extend our authority to municipalities or counties, other governmental subdivisions can sign an agreement with the state fire marshal to enforce the code within their city limits. So the town of Hochatown could sign that agreement and they can start issuing the building permits.
Okay.
I don't think they're going to do that today, but it would be something they need to look at.
You're talking a building permit.
Yes.
Before we incorporated, it was wild, wild west up here, and it still is in certain areas, pretty much. Now that we are incorporated, in order for us to issue a building permit, builder comes up here in one of these lots out here in one of these subdivisions, on bill such and such right here. We have to have ordinances set in place, building codes, all of that set in place before we can issue any type of building permit. Go,
No, the state's already adopted the minimum code. The only thing you have to put in place is if you wanna do something above and beyond the minimum
Okay.
requirements. We only hold people to the minimum code. So most of your cities will have a few other things they'll throw in that has to do with
okay,
planting of trees and landscaping and
no,
things that they want in their town to make it look good, the curb and gutter, and stuff like that. That's the kind of stuff you have to put in the ordinance. If you sign an agreement, at that point, the town becomes responsible to ensure the minimum code is adhered to.
And those are for commercial buildings.
Yes, so if you go down that route and you assume the authority has jurisdiction, ideally, you would then begin to do the permitting for your 1 and 2 family residentials.
okay.
Because these cabins that are being built right now, no offense to anybody, but some of them probably are not safe to actually go to sleep in. Just because they look nice doesn't mean that they're safe. I've stayed in cabins down here, that didn't have a smoke detector on. I bring my own. So, we can't do anything about that, but as a community, you can. So that'd be something I would be, if it was my community, I would make sure that those cabins
So a
are
little bit confused. Your minimum code is fine only to commercial
only
buildings,
to commercial buildings.
and you're not considering these Airbnb, you're considering these rental cabins up here, single family dwelling.
We have to, because as soon as we try not to, the person building is gonna say, no, I'm gonna live there. And as soon as they say that, they win.
And that's what's different with our agency. It doesn't matter if it's single family dwelling or commercial business.
Okay.
We got jurisdiction from the time it comes out of the ground to the time it's a vapor coming out of the exhaust.
And you're talking about natural gas or LP?
LP.
LP, okay.
As far as transportation, storage and handling. So like for instance, the lodging companies that actually get cylinders delivered to them, the 20-pound cylinders, and delivered to the residents, which is the main question I think that you guys have got is about the grills, outdoor grills. Technically, when you put that cylinder inside of your vehicle and transport it, that's a Class 3 permit. That's a cylinder transporter permit. So we gotta have documentation, gotta have you permitted, just so your insurance will cover you, because there is a permit for that. So then when they go to install that, it says in code as far as install on any system, any container, any apparatus, any configuration of LP gas piping, any appliance, you gotta have a Class 4 installer permit, which is what we was given. That's why I told Cleta to hold up, stop, because there is some language barriers that we need to work through, because technically the lodging companies aren't really qualified to take that test. But we was trying to help.
The management company?
Yes.
Okay.
So as far as the management company goes, as far as taking decorative fireplaces apart to clean, changing out thermocouplers, lighting pilot lights, all that service tech work, that should be done by a licensed plumber.
Sure.
So a lodging company should not be technically doing that. As far as putting a cylinder, so I think my words got misconstrued a lot on this deal. If it's an outdoor grill that rolls around, not permanently affixed to the structure, we don't care about those. It's an outdoor kitchen, the ones that's attached to the assembly of the structure, the ones that's part of that dwelling. The fire pit's out on the deck, it's all built in one structure, it's built into that residence. At that point, you're actually going with considered an appliance, if that makes sense, at that point. So, and the problem with that is, we got a lot of guys, and I'm not knocking anybody here today, so please don't take any offense of this. There's a lot of these outdoor grills that, I got a buddy that owns a construction company, I got a friend that owns a construction company, how I can come put in your outdoor kitchen, and they don't build it per manufacturer specifications or code. That is what happened to the accident that happened back in August. It wasn't vented properly, there wasn't a corridor in there just for the LP gas tank, it wasn't sealed properly, and that's what caused the vapor buildup to blow up. Now the outdoor push around grills, those are designed, they're not altered, they're designed to actually vent away the vapor, so you're not gonna have that situation, that problem. Now, they asked for my recommendation, what could be a more risk reduction into this. And I said, just plumb them in to the actual plumbing system that's actually at the tank into the house. I didn't say, everybody go plumb these in, hard plumb them in. Didn't say that. I was asked by one lodging company and by the insurance, Farm Bureau Insurance, what can we do to have a risk reduction? We'll take the liability out, quit transporting cylinders, actually hard plumb them in. I said that one that falls back on class 1 dealers like Scotch Group or McCurtain County Propane or W Offer, they gotta come in and inspect that, make sure it meets code for the safety of your occupants. And then they'll sign off on the Form 4 and then get that back to us. Is everybody clear on that? I'm not saying hard plumb them in, I'm saying as far as the risk reduction,
That's the way to get away.
that is the way to get away from that liability and litigation.
Now, can I ask a question, sir?
Yes.
So, if I don't use a management company, I just have a couple cabins that I take care of myself, and I only have to push around grills, you're saying I can change those bottles out with I don't need any special?
If you're sleeping there.
No, I'm not sleeping there. I'm
Because the
renting.
problem is there's rules in there that state if you do it for, this is actually commercial business.
Right.
Their hands are kind of tight, so once they say, hey, this is my house, they step back. We don't look at it that way, neither does insurance companies. So you can take that liability upon yourself, yes, but I do not recommend it.
Okay, but there's no permit I need to just change out a gas grill in a cabin that I own, but I'm not sleeping in.
He's talking about changing
So
the law.
in our rules, in statute, it states that you can do that yourself, but you still have to have it inspected by a licensed, permitted person.
Okay, so my guys that work for me that change the propane bottles, first of all, have a class 3 permit just so they can transport the bottle to the cabin. And then they have to have a class 4 install to actually hook up the bottle to the rolling grill.
Correct.
Okay.
Not the rolling grill. I can care less about the rolling grill. It's built to the manufacturer's specification.
So they
That's a
do not have to
liability, that's a liability you guys take.
Okay,
We're talking about outdoor kitchens that's installed, part of the dwelling,
Right,
part of the
right, right.
structure.
so rolling grills, I don't have to worry about it except I can't transport a bottle. Okay, how do I get a class 3 permit so that they can carry a bottle to the cabin?
I'll give you guys our office phone number. It's 405-521-2458. You can also go on our website at lpgas.ok.gov and apply for the class 3 permit.
Repeat that number, please.
405-521-2458.
Is there any enforcement at the distributor level? Like who enforces whether or not they have a permit?
So, it's kind of, I've got 5 officers, including myself,
I want to hear it.
that regulate the state. So we mainly work off complaints, okay? When it comes down to it, the class 1 dealers, at the end of the day, when they deliver that gas, the class 1 dealer does what they call a Form 4. So your people doing the roughing and top out, reinstalling appliances, servicing of LP gas appliances, you gotta have a class 4. Through that, the statute says you gotta do a Form 4. So any type of change in the system, any type of testing, whether it's a pressure test or a leak check, it's gotta be documented on that Form 4 and then sent to our office within 15 business days. They're the ones that are taking that responsibility of actually inspecting that, making sure it's up to code by licensed personnel. It's a rough in, Form 4, top out, Form 4, installation of, or reinstallation of appliances, Form 4. Notify the class 1 dealer if you change out a water heater, a tankless water heater, if you got a leak, they're gonna come back and do the final Form 4 to make sure it meets code, meets that standard, and then they're gonna be the ones that put you in service. Okay, and then if they got a complaint and they got somebody not complying, usually we work off of those complaints that come down here. It's kind of, this is kind of a different situation down here because we worked an accident, seeing, hey, there's a problem, we need to address it because now we know about it. So that's whenever I sent Officer Payton down here to start kind of correcting these issues. So as far as that goes, that's when we started notifying lodging companies, notifying, hey guys, this is the deal, if you're gonna transport that and you're gonna install it on a commercial property, that's the way we're looking at this, you're gonna have a license. So, and we've ran into a lot of plumbers, a lot of electricians, on our end of the deal, that's hooking up air conditioning units, that's installing gas piping, that's not really licensed with us nor the Construction Industry Board for the state of Oklahoma. And then they say they're from Texas. And then we start digging into Texas because they got a deal called a master plumber. They're not even licensed in the state of Texas. So they're not even holding a permit at all. So here you got John Doe down the road that says, hey, I'm a plumber and I can do it for $10,000 cheaper. They come in, slap some, I've got stuff with PEX pipe in it. I've got poly coming in domes. I've got regulators right underneath tankless water heaters. I mean, I got some tanks sitting on top of aerobic systems that they come in and just put the aerobic system in or the septic system in after the fact that the tank was set. So there's a lot of stuff that doesn't meet code that is a life safety issue, life safety problem.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's say we call Scott Christian to come and fill the large tank, and he sees something like the incorrect type of line or something. Yeah. Are we gonna have some, sort of notification and grace period to get it up to code? And do we get the gas or we don't get the gas?
It all depends on severity of the problem.
Okay.
I've left that, these dealers have that authority to say, hey, I don't think it's really a life safety issue to that extent. I don't think it's immediate danger, life and health. He can give you 14 days, 30 days, 6 days, 90, 120. He can work with you on that because he's taking the liability of servicing that tank.
Yeah.
And what we're gonna put your gas in, we see a problem, then we code, we give you that, we'll just tell you, we'll notify you, say, hey, we gotta fix your poly and the dome. And we'll give you 60 days. If we don't have enough people to get there, because there's a ton of stuff out to fix. If we can't make it, we'll say, hey, we're gonna go ahead and put up a heavy guy there.
We'll do the urgent stuff first.
Yes. Good.
If it's gonna be immediate danger to somebody dying, then we'll get that fixed, like improper venting on your HVAC system or a water heater. Last time we want somebody to be asphyxiated by CO poisoning. And we've ran into some issues like that. We've also had some stuff, we come out and pull a leak check on some of these cabins, and I can't even shut the tank off quick enough to look at my gauge without it all leaking out. So, I mean, we've got some serious leaks. I've got poly in the ground with no tracer wire, no tracer tape. Where's the poly go? Flip a coin and let's guess, So future maintenance, future installations of stuff. If you guys come in and say, hey, we want to put in a hydrant system, now we got a water supply here. Now you may be digging into a tank or digging into some propane lines. I mean, you've got PEX pipe running into decorative fireplaces. I mean, these are plumbers that, I'm not gonna call them plumbers because they're not licensed anywhere in the state, nor Texas, Arkansas, or Missouri. So it's really a kind of a bad situation you guys are in. And I apologize that we didn't know it was this big of an issue until now. I think y'all's been building since 2014-ish, is that right? Long before that. So, so, I mean, I'm just going off hearsay. Like he said, I do apologize for this. I'm not from this area. I'm not a local. So.
But you've always had a safety code enforcement officer down here, right?
Yes. Well, taking mine also, he covers about 11 counties. It's not just, there at one time, we only had 3 officers for the whole entire state. So I covered central Oklahoma and the whole panhandle. So I had 22 counties out of 77.
20 years ago, there was Leon. Remember Leon? I guess that's about 20. You'd see Leon once a year. He'd inspect the trucks, inspect the storage. You may not see him the rest of the year.
So we do have a whole new team that works for me. We've got a whole new administrative team that works in the office. We're going to try to do you guys right. We want you guys safe. We don't want to see you guys in any lawsuit. The Form 4 for you mechanics or plumbers or whatever you guys want to call yourselves, that Form 4 is for me to go to court and fight for you guys. I want you guys to understand that. It is submissible in court. You fill it out right, you dot your I's, cross your T's, and put paper that I can go in and fight for you. You guys may get done with the job and 2 weeks later they don't want to pay you because you charged them $150 an hour and they found somebody to do it for 25. And they come in and change it. Well, who are they going to attack? The guys with the insurance. So that gives me an opportunity. You write down all the information you can on the Form 4s. They're free, no cost to you, and that's what helps me go in and fight for you guys as well. You can get online, go to PERT. You can, you got general information. You've got site specific. So site specific saying, hey, this is the grill, this is how we're gonna do it, that's general knowledge of how to actually do that job function. You're gonna have hazmat emergency training and handling training and transportation training. As long as you can prove that, you're gonna send that documentation to us. You don't care how you do it, how you get it. You're gonna tell us you're gonna tell us, you know, how I went to PERT, done this course.
You're not doing the training.
Correct.
There is 4 or 5 steps of training somebody's gotta go sign up for, pay money for, get it done, send the paperwork to you.
A lot of this is
Another
free.
$70.
A lot of this is free.
All the things that's in the middle of the country.
Yeah, PERT. What is PERT? Pearl Educational Research Council.
Is there anything being done local in terms of training?
We can't train you on that.
Do you have recommendations of who
Driver's
can?
license and go write you a ticket. You can go to your local Class 1 dealer.
Yes.
They're actually federally, they're supposed to train you as well. As a Class 1, hey, this is what happens in case of emergencies, what happens in case you got a cylinder leaking, this is how you handle it. Call us, because they're the emergency contact. I mean, there's training out there that you can get through the Class 1 as well.
You know how much the class 3 is?
I'm not gonna lie to you, because we had a bunch of fee changes.
There's no insurance bonding
How long is it good
requirement.
for?
Class 3 is okay. There's no.
Any state license or permit, you gotta be bonded.
And a bond could cost you $100 a year.
Depends on the amount of bond.
Yeah, for
They're
10,000.
normally about 10%.
So with a class 3 permit or any permit, we need to be bonded. Me, the management company, or my guys for installing, or both? Both.
It's $300 for an annual permit for a Class 3.
It's going up, isn't
Sounds like to me, we need to know the site we need to go to buy shares of Psycho Gas.
Okay, so if something were to happen, and I was transporting a bottle or the grill, whatever, did whatever, and I, had my permit but wasn't bonded, then I'm getting sued, right?
If you have your permit, you won't get your permit because you have to show
Oh,
proof.
you have to have bonding first to get your
In
permit.
the statute, it says it must be up to date.
Okay.
Probably get sued anyway, but at least you'd have a license, you know what I mean?
But also, on top of the bonding and the permitting, isn't there a large amount of insurance that's required?
On the Class 3, I think it's $25,000 for the occurrence. When you get over into the,
That's what,
because our insurance is all over the board.
what's that mean?
Coletta said something about you better be insured for $1 million.
No, it's not a million.
That's in addition to the bond. Hey, are we okay doing charcoal? Just checking.
Go back to Charco.
Maybe go back to prison.
Right.
But you got 45 million trailer trailers running up and down the road. That's right. It's got 2 bottles on it.
Yeah, she was right on that, isn't it? They moved it up $2 million.
$1 million.
You know, that don't make no sense.
So that's per person?
That's for the company.
Can you clarify again? There's some confusion about personal use and commercial use.
Personal use, if you live in that house, you yourself and only you yourself, you can do whatever you want.
But 2 tanks on a travel trailer is considered personal use. That's not have anything to do. Doesn't have anything to do with this, right? Okay.
Do we regulate that? Yeah, we regulate as far as safety goes, but not as far as being permitted with license.
So on the insurance, is that an additional insurance on top of a company's already liability insurance?
You may already have it.
I mean, if you have.
No, you don't. A lot of companies will say, yeah, you're already covered, but you need to call your insurance company and say, hey, what's
It's
my
covered
general
for
liability
this
cover?
purpose, under that policy.
Have to raise class 4 to $1.2 million?
Do what?
Is class 4 liability insurance raised to $1 million also?
No, it is, 500,000 per occurrence or 500,000 aggregate.
All right, I got a question back in fire marshal. So all of these cabins technically should have been permitted through your agency at the point of being built. If Hochatown makes an agreement with your department and they take that responsibility, can they retroactively issue permits and have licensed companies come in to sign off on?
They could. So, the way the state law is adopted, the way it affects the state fire marshal's office, we cannot enforce the International Residential Code. It specifically says we cannot enforce that, so it puts us in a real bind to try to do a residence, because we're doing an IBC, which at that point all the cabins get sprinkled. So the town can come in and say, we're gonna issue building permits for 1 and 2 family residentials and all businesses. At that point, they would use the International Residential Code, what they would use. And they can draw a line in the sand and say, from this point forward, you have to have a building permit to build a cabin. If they try to go backwards, they're gonna face some lawsuits.
So would that be so commercial properties, would they be grandfathered in? I mean, how does that work?
The commercials cannot be grandfathered in. So, the state law has been there for decades.
So we just have to get it up to code?
We work with the existing buildings. We look at it, and if there's something that we consider to be immediately dangerous to life and health, we make you fix that immediately if you continue to occupy it. For some of the people we deal with, it may take years for them to bring their place up to code. We can't ask you to tear your building down. You're gonna have buildings that are too close together. So there may be a case where you have to close in a window or a door because of that. But we're gonna work with people, we're not going to.
Sure.
But ours is retroactive because the law has always been there that these commercial properties should have been permitted. Where the residentials don't fall into that same category.
Right, so it's basically just like the LP gas, something's grandfathered in. If it was built to code 10 years ago, and now the laws have changed, until you have an interruption of service, that is still, it's still good to use that system. You with me, correct? But when we shut that system down for any reason, then it all has to be brought up to code.
Give you an example on our side. So say you got the top pipe going from the tank to the house. Well, code says you gotta have a dielectric unit. That came into play in 2013. It wasn't retroactive. So
You gotta have what?
a dielectric union, it's just a rubber insulated union. And it keeps the electrolysis and energy to go through that, electricity going through that, stops it right there so it doesn't attack the most weakest part of your system, which would mainly be your flex connectors behind grills and inside of your utility closets. So that went into effect in 2013. This is the biggest deal going on now. It's code now. So if that ever had an interruption of service, they gotta come out and do a reinspection, because after each interruption of service, you gotta do a Form 4. That's when the dealer should be saying, hey,
You gotta dig it up.
we gotta put a dielectric union in. So if you never out of gas, never have ever ran out of gas, you're good.
But it's still a safety factor.
Safety factor, yes. So as a dealer, I'd be sending out memos, hey, this is a code change, it's not retroactive, we just make you guys aware that this is a problem.
I ought to know that. I'm a retired plumber from Texas. I ought to know what dielectric, I know I shouldn't put one in, so.
So, that's retroactive is, hey, we're gonna give you a set date, it's gotta be done. Non-retroactive means as long as you're up to code at the point prior to, you're good. Now, change of use, that's where they come into place, and change of use, so let's, all you Scots, that saloon down here, if they change the use of that building, then he's gotta resubmit plans and apply for a change of use of occupancy. Don't lose anybody there.
What about change of ownership? Is that considered a change? I mean, you know, it's still the customers and,
It's a change of use is where so if you sell town hall here to another.
we don't own it, we're just borrowing it.
To another town to be a town hall, and it doesn't sit vacant, everything's fine. But if you sell this to become a restaurant, it's a change of use. So you have to submit plans.
But if a cabin is still being rented as a cabin, that's not a change of use, it's just a change of ownership. That doesn't matter.
But we don't get involved in the cabins.
Okay.
Now, Scott would have to do it at the change of ownership. He'd have to come back in and do a reinspection.
For the saloon.
Or a cabin. So if you own the cabin and you bought the cabin from him, now it's a new customer, he'd have to come back in and reinspect the whole
That's what I
facility.
was asking.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, that's some statute.
So anytime there's a change of ownership, Scott needs to come.
We should do it.
Yes.
No.
Are you selling
The
chairs?
real estate agents doing that?
I said, are you selling chairs?
They don't know it.
Hire some help.
And guys and gals, on the Form 4s, you're supposed to be getting a copy of those. If you're the management company, so when Scott comes in, or Gary or whoever's driving his truck, if they come in and say, hey, you guys, you call out of gas, it doesn't matter if he shows up and he got 5%, you call out of gas, he's supposed to do a Form 4. Interruption of service, you gotta shut the gas off for any reason, ran out of gas, you gotta do a Form 4. He hadn't put any gas in the system in 2 years, he's gotta do a Form 4. Change of ownership, Form 4. So he sends me a copy, he keeps a copy, and then you guys get a copy.
It's hard to find somebody to sign those a lot of times.
That's a fact. I was gonna bring it up.
So as far as signing it, the general contractor or new construction can sign it. Somebody from the lodging company can sign it. The homeowner can sign it. Some sort of representative's gotta sign that Form 4, and they gotta be there present when he does the test. Cause it states on there that you are at this time, there's no leak.
I've had to do them 3 times just to get somebody there to sign them to come.
I'm getting the impression most everyone here is are cabin people.
I'm probably the only one that's not. Private resident, no cabin, no business owner, no nothing.
Any other questions?
Since we've got everybody in the room here, do you feel like you need a little committee of somebody to kind of keep the information going on all this, or is everybody good on their own now with this meeting?
Hey, Nathan, is it okay with you if I kind of outline, like usage of the bottles especially, and, I'll outline it out, send it to you, you look at it, if it's right, then we'll put it on the website?
Yes.
Okay.
Send it on. We do have a board meeting, April 11th at the Connors Building. You can send a representative if you'd like. I know it's a long ways Oklahoma City, they're at the Capitol Complex. But we are gonna be discussing the actual grill exchanging. We're gonna try to work with some of the language in there. I asked our attorney for legal advice. She still didn't make it black and white with me, so.
What time is the meeting?
It starts at 9:30,
Ooh,
yes,
on April 11th,
April 11th, in
And-
Connors Building.
the Connors
That'd
Building?
be the farthest northwest building on the Capitol Complex, with the sky bridge attached to it. Parking's on the northeast side.
Yes.
Well, one thing we'll say for this room is, you know, we've made trips to Oklahoma City before to change statutes and legislation, and, you know, if that's what we need, we'll do it again, but it'd be nice to work together on, you know, what that might look like. Because ultimately, we want to be able to keep renting cabins and having guests here, but if there's some statutes that don't really fit what we're doing now, then let's look at them.
I have a question on the construction side. We're kicking around the idea of a city ordinance to not allow burning on construction sites. How do we, is that something we can contact, if that does happen, and someone's violating that ordinance, and they continue to violate the ordinance, I'm sure that, you know, it's something we would hope that we could go out and just tell them, guys, quit burning, and it's taken care of. But if it's something that becomes a problem and enforcement of that, do we have to hire our own enforcement, or is that something that we could go to the state?
Well, you could use DEQ,
Okay.
you could use the local sheriff.
But if it's a municipal ordinance, then our municipal police would do it.
If you have municipal police, that's who should do it.
Well, I mean, if we got, like say we put this ordinance in before summer hits, and we don't have any municipal police on staff yet.
Represents us.
Yes.
County sheriff
Yeah,
and
I've
the
already talked to
BRT.
him.
Okay.
That's actually, burning construction materials against state law. So the DEQ would already,
Already have
if
it.
they call DEQ, you tell them, if you don't stop, you call DEQ and they will come enforce that.
Okay.
You can't burn construction material.
Yeah, the only thing you can burn is basically just limbs and trees that have fallen.
Okay.
You can't burn anything other than that. By law.
Really?
You guys ever get a fire started up here, I was in the world of hurt.
You're not gonna get DEQ out here for that, as short-headed as what they are on just looking at
I
septic.
guarantee you put a tire on that fire, you'll have somebody here.
Well, I will say
And
that
they just show up, I don't know.
we have been working with DEQ, and they were looking at putting 2 employees in Hochatown, but they couldn't find any office space. And so they are aware of, you know, all of the needs that we have here, and they are trying to get somebody here. I haven't checked with them lately to see where we are, but I think they were finally gonna have to just get some space in Idabel, even though all the work's in Hochatown. So if anybody has any office space, let me know.
My old office. Chris Smith.
Yep, okay.
So state law says that there can be no burning on a construction site whatsoever, so that's already
You
a
can't burn construction material.
material.
Well,
Right.
that's what they're from.
They can burn limbs.
Only if it come off of that property to start with, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
If, say it is a problem, and DEQ, whoever gets involved, what is the punishment? I mean, what is the fine?
Those people wing stuff up as they go.
I have no idea.
Depends on how much lip you give them.
If you've issued a building permit to the site and they violate municipal codes, the municipality, I guarantee it happens in Oklahoma City all the time, you violate codes, they'll revoke your
Okay, so
construction.
if, say, let's say a building permit is revoked, who enforces that?
So I would recommend that the town of Hochatown considers becoming their own authority and jurisdiction. I'm gonna be honest with you, there's not a commercial property in this town that's been properly permitted. And that's a problem. It would be in your best interest to assume that authority and issue the building permits to make money at it. And you know, a lot of people are afraid because they don't have the people, but the revenue it brings in will pay the people. But that way you can control what's going on in your town, make sure it's a safe place for people to come visit. Because it just takes one bad fire, people aren't gonna be afraid to come here.
Well, I just wanna make sure if we do decide to do something like this, we've got the teeth to enforce it. You know, it's one thing to have the statute or the law or the ordinance, but if you can't enforce it, or, you know, then people will just keep violating it, and, you know, as soon as you turn your back, they'll go again. So I just wanna make sure that we have the ability to, you know, if you come out there and an owner of a cabinet's getting built gets $1,000 fine, he's a whole lot more likely to make sure that those construction crews aren't burning, as opposed to if we're just telling them to stop. So I'm just curious as to what kind of.
If you do a city ordinance, you're gonna need to have city law enforcement.
Okay, so there's no state that would come in, no state, office or nothing that would come in?
Not for enforcing your city ordinance.
So you can be arrested for violating the city code, I guess, huh?
Yeah.
Like us, if you guys violate $1,000 per violation, or you be charged with a misdemeanor, we can arrest you.
I already paid about 10 grand, y'all, so.
They told Cleve to get busy then.
We're signing Scott up for the municipal ordinance committee. Anybody else want to join?
Guys, we're here to help y'all. We're not here to be a nuisance. We just don't want to be. I mean, y'all's lucky nobody died in that accident back in August.
Well, we appreciate your time coming out to this.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming.
I'll come out anytime y'all need us, so. I got some cards laid out on the table if y'all need more, I got more in the car, but please, guys, I have an open door policy, so just call me if you need anything.
And we did.